This man single-handedly changed the history of Islam forever, and you probably haven't heard about him. His name was Khalid ibn al-Walid. He had a nickname, the Sword of Allah. But to be honest, I think the title of this video should actually be The Brain of Allah, because his military tactics were so genius that even the great Sun Tzu would be proud of them. When you hear the name Khalid ibn al-Walid, what first comes to your mind is battles, wars, and victories. But when you look into his life story, you realize there is much more to him than just being a great warrior. He was an administrator, judge, governor, diplomat, strategist, and above all, a devout Muslim. If you want to know more about the fascinating life of the legendary companion of Prophet Muhammad, stick around till the end of this episode. Before we start, I would like to point out that most of the historical sources on the early days of Islam are not neutral. The famous history books like The Sealed Nectar or The Life of Muhammad by Martin Lings or the biography of the great conqueror of Persia, Khalid ibn al-Walid, are all written by Muslims. This does not mean they are not reliable sources, but it is important to keep in mind that they might have some bias. This is why I try to read other non-Muslim sources as well. The problem is there are not many of them from that time period. So, for the early periods of Muslim history, we only have a few valuable non-Muslim sources. One is the History of al-Tabari, which is basically the compilation of various reports, some of which go back to the time of the Prophet himself. Another one is the History of Bukhari, which contains over 6,000 reports, most of which are not found in other collections. These two sources, together with the Quran and the Hadith, are considered the primary sources for the history of early Islam. However, scholars often disagree on the authenticity of these reports. For example, some scholars say the report of Ali's claim on caliphate after the death of Abu Bakr is not authentic, so it is always best to keep an open mind while studying history, especially when it comes to religious figures. With that said, let's get started. Khalid ibn al-Walid was born in Mecca in the year 592 AD. His father, Walid ibn al-Mughira, belonged to the powerful Quraysh tribe and was a leader of the section called Bali. His mother was a sister of Abu Talib, who was the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad and took care of the Prophet and his family. So Khalid grew up in the house of Abu Talib. At that time, the Quraysh tribe was deeply involved in the trade of the Kaaba and was very wealthy. That's why Khalid received the finest education of the time. He learned poetry, eloquence, Arabic grammar, and other subjects. Moreover, he also received military training from his father, who was a well-known leader in the Meccan army. In fact, he was given the nickname Khalid, which means forever at war. When he was still young, he participated in several battles against other Arab tribes and gained much experience. Later, he became a commander of the Meccan army and fought against the tribes of Ghatafan and Jumah. Because of his bravery and skill in warfare, he earned the title of Sword of Allah. But soon he would be fighting against his own people, the Quraysh tribe. When the Prophet Muhammad began preaching Islam in Makkah, his tribe rejected it and persecuted him and his followers. As a result, the Muslims had to migrate to Medina. Khalid ibn al-Walid was among the Meccans who opposed Islam. He led a group of Meccans to attack the Muslims in Medina. However, he suffered defeat. After that, he returned to Makkah and continued to oppose Islam, but his whole family gradually became Muslim one by one. First, his mother, then his wife, and finally his brother, who converted him to Islam. Yes, his brother was the famous Muslim conqueror of Persia. It happened during the Battle of Urd. Khalid was severely injured and left for dead by the Muslims. His brother Walid took care of him and nursed him back to health. Then he embraced Islam. After becoming Muslim, Khalid ibn al-Walid proved himself to be an exceptional leader and commander. He led the Muslim army to victory in numerous battles. Some of the most famous battles in which he participated were the Battle of Mu'tah, where he commanded the Muslim right wing, the Battle of Yamama, where he led the Muslim cavalry, and the Battle of Hunayn, where he commanded the Muslim left wing. He defeated the Jewish tribes of Banu Qurayza and Banu Nadir, which helped the Muslims conquer Khaybar. After the conquest of Khaybar, he pursued the fleeing Jews and forced them to surrender. Then he returned to Medina and was given the governorship of Syria. The task before him was not easy. The Byzantine Empire was trying to reconquer the recently conquered lands. Furthermore, the Arab tribes in Syria were also rebelling against the Muslims, so Khalid had to deal with both external and internal threats. To solve these problems, he followed the teachings of the Prophet and established a strong central authority. He appointed trustworthy people to govern the provinces and collected taxes from the citizens. Using this money, he built roads, bridges, and other public works. These measures helped him to win the support of the people. With their help, he defeated the Byzantines and the Arab tribes. In 634, the Muslims conquered Damascus and the rest of Syria. After that, Khalid ibn al-Walid was sent to Iraq to conquer it. He divided his army into smaller groups and sent them to different parts of Iraq. Then he personally led his troops to meet them and defeat the Sasanian Persians. In 637, he won a decisive victory over the Persians at the Battle of al-Qadisiyah. This battle is considered a turning point in the history of Islam because it marked the beginning of the Muslim conquest of Iraq and Persia. After the Muslim victory, Khalid ibn al-Walid entered Baghdad, the capital of the Sassanid Empire, and captured it. But soon after, he was recalled by Caliph Umar and replaced by another general, Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. There is a famous narration from the Prophet that whoever conquered Persia would be equal in merit to the Prophet Musa, meaning Moses, and the person who conquers Rome will be equal in merit to the Prophet Isa, meaning Jesus. So you can imagine how great conquering Persia was at that time. Next, Khalid ibn al-Walid was sent to defeat the kings of Armenia and Lazica, but he failed to do so. Then he returned to Damascus and was made governor of Syria again. He stayed in that position for 9 years, and during that time, he made many improvements to the province. He built hospitals, schools, and other public buildings, and encouraged trade and industry. In 643, Caliph Uthman ibn Affan sent him to Mecca to put down the rebellion of the tribe of Juhayna. He stayed in Mecca for 3 years, and after that, he returned to Damascus. During his travels between Syria and Medina, he stayed in a place called Al-Karak and died there in 644. He was buried in a mosque which is now known as the Mosque of the Tomb of Khalid ibn al-Walid. Although Khalid ibn al-Walid is mainly known for his military achievements, he was actually much more than just a warrior. He was a great administrator, judge, governor, and diplomat. He was also a devout Muslim who worked hard to spread the message of Islam. In today's world, he would probably be considered a Renaissance man. Now, if you think Khalid was great, wait till you hear about his brother, who single-handedly conquered one of the greatest empires of its time, the great conqueror of Persia, Suleiman the Magnificent. Click here to know more about the life of Suleiman the Magnificent, and I'll see you there.
Love documentaries? Subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories and in-depth content. Don't forget to like and share if you enjoyed this video. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more fascinating documentaries coming your way.